You have 6 months, the oncologist said. Maybe 8, if the chemo goes well. But the funniest part about death was that it gives a whole new spin to these government non-disclosures that he had signed 45 years ago. They won't give you no grief when you're 6 feet under, and to be honest, I don't give a damn anymore. It is a fact that what transpired in Dulce needs to be made known, no matter how much people may want to deny it. However, if you are finding any benefit from these stories that have been circulating from our nation's military and its service members, then I would encourage you to subscribe to our messaging service. The stories that we have been distributing on a daily basis would never be made possible without your subscription to our service. My name is David Hartley. It was the year 1979, and my age was 22 years young and straight out of college with an associate degree in electrical engineering and 400 hard-earned bucks in my wallet. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, middle-class family. Dad worked construction. Mom was a school teacher. Nothing special about us. I wasn't the smartest kid in school, but I was good with my hands, good at figuring out how things worked. Electronics fascinated me. Radios, televisions, circuit boards. I'd take them apart and put them back together just to understand the logic of it. My grades were decent enough to get me into community college, but not good enough for a 4-year university scholarship. My parents didn't have the money for that anyway. So I did the 2-year program, Electrical Engineering Technology. Graduated in May of '79 with decent marks and no job prospects. The economy was terrible. Inflation was crushing everyone. Gas prices were insane. Companies weren't hiring. I applied to 47 positions in 3 months, got 2 interviews, no offers. My $400 was running out fast. I was living in my parents' basement, eating their food, watching my future evaporate. Dad kept suggesting I try construction, follow in his footsteps. Honest work, he'd say. Nothing wrong with honest work. But I wanted more, needed more. I'd spent 2 years learning skills that nobody seemed to want. And then I saw the posting. Just a small ad in the Albuquerque Journal Classifieds. 3 lines: security technician, government contractor, excellent pay. Call this number. The job posting seemed almost too good to be true. Security technician position, remote location in northern New Mexico. Starting salary that was triple what I could make anywhere else with my qualifications. Government contractor work. Required top secret security clearance, willingness to relocate immediately, and an understanding that the work location and nature of duties were classified. I should have been suspicious. Should have questioned why they'd pay so much for an entry-level position. Should have wondered why they needed someone with minimal experience for classified government work. But I was 22, broke, and desperate. Pride is expensive when you're sleeping in your parents' basement. I applied on a Monday. By Friday, I was sitting in a windowless office in Albuquerque across from 2 men in dark suits who never gave me their names. Just sir and sir. They asked questions for 6 hours straight. My family history, my education, my political beliefs, my sexual orientation, whether I'd ever experimented with drugs, whether I had any foreign contacts, whether I could keep secrets even from my family. The younger one leaned forward near the end. This position requires absolute discretion, Mr. Hartley. You will see things that challenge your understanding of reality. You will learn information that contradicts your education and your beliefs about how the world works. Can you live with that knowledge and never speak of it? I was 22 and broke. Of course, I said yes. 3 days later, I was in the back of an unmarked van with blackened windows, driving northwest from Albuquerque toward the town of Dulce. Population barely over 2,000. Mostly Jicarilla Apache reservation land. High desert mountains. Pine forests. Middle of nowhere. The van stopped at what looked like a small biotech research facility built into the side of a mountain. Chain link fence. Guard station. A few above-ground buildings that could have been anywhere. clean, professional, boring. The reality was below ground, 7 levels deep. They took me down that first day. Orientation, they called it. Standard elevator to level 1. Normal government office space. Desks, computers, filing cabinets. People in business casual clothing. Could have been any federal building in America. Level 2 was laboratories, clean rooms, scientists in white coats, equipment I didn't recognize but that looked expensive and complicated. Still normal enough. Still explainable. Level 3 was where things started feeling wrong. The elevator doors opened onto a corridor that was wider than it should have been. The walls weren't concrete anymore. They were some kind of smooth, almost glassy material that seemed to absorb sound. The lighting came from panels in the ceiling that gave off a slightly blue-white glow. Cold, clinical, and quiet. Too quiet. Even our footsteps seemed muffled. My escort that day was a man named Collins, former Marine, I'd guess, from the way he carried himself. He noticed me staring at the walls. Developed by DARPA, he said. Electromagnetic shielding, keeps signals in and out. Nothing electronic works down here unless it's hardwired into our systems. Why would you need that in a research facility? He smiled. Thin, no humor in it. You'll find out. Level 4 was medical, but not any kind of medical facility I'd ever seen. The examination rooms were too large, the equipment too specialized, and the beds, hospital gurneys essentially, had restraints built into them, heavy ones, industrial grade. I stopped walking. Collins had to backtrack a few steps. What kind of patients need restraints like that? The kind we study here? That wasn't an answer, but the look in his eyes told me not to push further. They didn't take me below level 4 on that first day. Said I needed to acclimate, build up my clearance incrementally, prove I could handle what I'd already seen before showing me more. My job was straightforward in theory. I maintained the security systems, cameras, card readers, biometric scanners, electromagnetic locks, every entry point, every corridor, every room. The facility ran on redundant systems, main power, backup generators, battery reserves, and something else they didn't explain. Some kind of experimental power source on level 7 that supposedly could run the entire facility for years without refueling. The crew was small. Maybe 30 people total across all shifts. Scientists, military personnel, medical staff, engineers like me. Everyone with clearances so high we couldn't even tell our families where we worked. Just government contractor, classified location. Nobody talked much. That was the strangest part. In every job I'd had before, there was banter, conversation, people complaining about their commutes or talking about their weekends. Not here. People moved through the hallways with purpose, spoke only when necessary, and disappeared into rooms that locked behind them. I'd been there 3 weeks when I first saw one of them. It was late. Second shift, almost 10 at night. I was replacing a faulty card reader on level 3. Most of the staff had gone up to the surface or to their quarters on level 1. The hallways were nearly empty. I heard the elevator behind me, turned around. The doors opened. 2 security guards stepped out first, full tactical gear, M16 rifles, not pointed, but held ready. Their faces were blank, professional, but I saw tension in their shoulders. Behind them came a figure on a wheeled gurney, strapped down, multiple points of restraint across the torso, limbs, and head. It wasn't human. My hands froze on the tools. My brain struggled to process what I was seeing. Gray skin, smooth, almost luminescent under the blue-white corridor lights, limbs that were too long and too thin, proportions all wrong. The head was oversized, bulbous, eyes that were huge and dark and seemed to track everything even though the thing wasn't moving. The gurney rolled past me, maybe 15 feet away, close enough to see details I'd spend the next 45 years trying to forget. The being's chest moved, breathing, alive. One of the guards looked at me. His expression said everything. You didn't see this. This never happened. Keep your mouth shut. They disappeared around the corner toward the medical section. The elevator doors closed. I was alone again in the silent corridor with my racing heart and my shaking hands. I finished replacing the card reader, checked it twice, logged the repair in my tablet, went back to my quarters on level 1, lay in bed staring at the ceiling until sunrise. Nobody said anything the next day. No warnings, no threats, no acknowledgement that I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to see. It was as if that moment in the hallway had never existed. But 2 days later, Collins found me in the maintenance bay. Without preamble, he handed me a new security badge, different color, additional clearance codes. Level 5 access, he said. You're being upgraded. Why? He shrugged. You saw one of the guests. Didn't panic, didn't run, didn't ask stupid questions. That shows judgment. They want you deeper. I should have quit. Should have walked away right then. Said this was too much, too far beyond what I signed up for. But I was 22. The money was extraordinary. And honestly, part of me wanted to know more. Wanted to understand what the hell was really happening beneath that mountain. Level 5 was containment. That's what they called it. Biohazard protocols at the elevator entrance. Decontamination showers coming in and going out. Airlocks, pressure differentials. Medical monitoring before and after every shift. The first time I went through the decontamination process, it took 20 minutes. Stripped down completely. Walked through chemical showers that smelled like chlorine and something else I couldn't identify. Stand under ultraviolet lights while automated scanners checked every inch of my body. Get dressed in a cleanroom suit that covered everything except my face. The medical tech who monitored my vitals was a woman named Patricia. She'd been working level 5 for 4 years. I could see it in her eyes, that 1,000-yard stare that comes from seeing too much. The symptoms usually start around month 3, she said as she fitted my suit. Headaches, nausea, sometimes nosebleeds, your body adjusting to the exposure. Exposure to what? She didn't answer. The rooms on level 5 had viewing windows, thick glass or maybe something stronger. Plexiglass, synthetic diamond. I didn't know. But through those windows I could see them. 6 containment cells, 6 occupants. All different. Cell 1 held the being I'd seen in the hallway. A gray, Collins called them. One of the standard types. They'd been working with this variety since the 1950s. Roswell. That wasn't a weather balloon. Everyone who worked level 5 and below knew the truth. I spent hours watching that gray in those first weeks. It never slept, as far as I could tell. Just sat on that platform, motionless except for breathing. Its chest would rise and fall. Slow, deliberate, but its eyes were always open, always watching the cameras, watching us through that glass. One time, maybe my second week on level 5, I was alone in the observation corridor. Late shift. Most of the scientists had gone. I was doing routine checks on the cell monitoring systems. The gray moved. For the first time since I'd been watching it, the thing actually moved. It turned its head, looked directly at me through the glass, and I swear, in that moment, I felt something, like a pressure in my head, like fingers pushing against the inside of my skull. Not painful, just present, insistent. Images flashed through my mind, not my images, not my memories. A desert, but not Earth's desert. The sky was wrong. 2 suns, rock formations that spiraled up like impossible towers, and a sense of loss. Deep, aching loss. I stumbled backward, hit the wall. The images stopped. The gray turned away, went back to its motionless vigil. I didn't report it, didn't tell anyone. But Patricia noticed something when I went through decontamination. Your blood pressure is elevated, she said. Pupil dilation, stress response. What happened down there? Nothing. Equipment malfunction. I'm fine. She looked at me for a long moment, then made a note in her tablet. If you experience any psychological disturbances, you need to report them immediately. The beings on level 5, they can affect certain individuals. We're not sure how, but it happens. The gray wasn't the worst. Cell 2 was empty, sterile, waiting. Cell 3 contained something that defied description. Humanoid in the loosest sense, 7 feet tall, proportions that seemed almost human until you looked closely. The skin was wrong. Textured, scaled, no. More like segmented, chitinous. It moved with deliberate precision. Every gesture calculated. Its eyes were yellow. Vertical pupils. Reptilian. They don't have a good name for those ones, Colin said during my orientation to the cell systems. The scientists call them the Dracos, territorial species, aggressive, highly intelligent. This one has been here since 1976. 3 years. It's been in that cell for 3 years? We can't let it out. Why not? Because the last time we did, it killed 2 guards and injured 4 others before we tranquilized it. He pulled up video footage on a monitor, black and white. Timestamp from October 1976. The cell door opening, 2 guards entering with weapons ready. The Draco moving so fast the camera could barely track it. 1 guard down in seconds. Neck snapped, the other guard firing. Bullets hitting the Draco but barely slowing it. More guards rushing in. The Draco throwing one across the room like a toy. Finally, someone getting a tranquilizer dart into its neck. The thing taking 4 more darts before it finally went down. Colin stopped the video. That's why we don't open that door. Not unless we have a full tactical team and enough sedatives to drop an elephant. I watched the Draco for weeks, studied its movements, its patterns. Unlike the gray, it wasn't passive. It paced, circled its cell, tested the walls, the door, looking for weaknesses. It was trapped, but it never stopped looking for a way out. And it watched us, with intelligence that was unsettling. It knew we were studying it, and it was studying us right back, learning, adapting. Cells 4, 5, and 6 held variations. More grays, different sizes, different features. One with eyes that seemed too large even for its already oversized head. Another with skin that had a slight greenish tint. The third barely moved at all, as if in some kind of stasis. But there were experiments. I saw them, watched them through the observation windows. The scientists would enter the cells in full hazmat suits, multiple guards with tranquilizer rifles backing them up. They'd take samples, blood, tissue. They'd conduct tests, cognitive assessments, physical examinations, recording everything. The beings submitted to this, most of the time. But I saw resistance, saw the gray in cell 1 suddenly go rigid when a scientist tried to insert a probe into its arm, saw its eyes flash, literally flash, like bioluminescence, and the scientist stumble backward, nose bleeding. Saw the Draco in cell 3 refuse to cooperate with a physical assessment. It simply stood there, immobile. No matter what they did, it wouldn't move, wouldn't respond. Just stared at them with those yellow eyes until they gave up and left. My job expanded. I maintained security not just for the facility, but for the containment systems. The electromagnetic locks that kept those cell doors sealed. The monitoring equipment that tracked every movement, every sound, every biological reading from the occupants. Redundant systems on top of redundant systems. Because the one thing they made absolutely clear was this: those doors could never, under any circumstances, be allowed to open without authorization. I worked level 5 for 2 months. Saw things that should have broken my mind. Watched scientists run experiments on conscious beings. watched medical teams draw samples and conduct procedures that would have violated every convention and treaty if these subjects had been considered human. But they weren't human. They were specimens, resources, sources of technology and biological information that would advance human science by centuries. That was the party line, the justification. They're not like us. They don't feel pain the way we do. They're not protected by human rights law because they're not human. I don't know if I believe that. But I cashed my paychecks, and I did my job. And I tried not to think too hard about the ethics of what I was participating in. Then, they gave me level 6 clearance. Collins looked grim when he handed me the new badge. This is different, David. Level 6 is collaboration spaces, joint work areas. You'll see things down there that'll challenge everything you think you know about whose side we're on. I didn't understand. Not until the elevator doors opened, and I stepped into a space that looked like a cross between a research laboratory and a workshop. Large tables covered with technology, equipment that was half familiar, half alien, cables and wires and circuit boards that incorporated materials I'd never seen before, and working side by side, humans and beings. A gray stood at one workstation next to a human scientist, both of them focused on some kind of energy device. The scientist asked a question. The gray's hand moved in response, gestures that somehow conveyed information. The scientist nodded, made adjustments. The gray watched, made its own gesture. Course correction. They were teaching us, or we were teaching them, or both. Across the room, a human engineer worked on what looked like a propulsion system with one of the reptilian beings. The Dracos' movements were more aggressive, more direct. It manipulated tools with precision that was unsettling. No wasted motion, pure efficiency. This is the collaboration level, Collins said quietly. We provide resources, access to materials, containment when necessary. They provide technology, information, advancement beyond what humanity could achieve on our own for at least another 1,000 years. I stared at the scene. My engineering degree felt suddenly worthless, primitive. Everything I'd learned in school was caveman technology compared to what was happening in this room. Who authorized this? I asked. Who agreed to this arrangement? Collins shrugged. Above my pay grade, above yours too. This goes all the way up. Presidential level, maybe beyond. What does that mean, beyond? He didn't answer. I adapted. That's what humans do, right? We adapt. I maintain the security systems on level 6. Watch the collaboration sessions. Learn to work in the same space as beings that shouldn't exist, according to everything I'd been taught growing up. Learn to nod and keep my mouth shut when I saw technology that made nuclear power look like a candle. But I never went to level 7. Nobody went to level 7 except a handful of the senior staff. The director, the chief scientists, senior military command. Maybe a dozen people total out of the whole facility. The rest of us just knew it existed. Knew it was down there. Knew it was the source of the experimental power that ran the entire facility. But we didn't know what else was down there. That changed in August of 1979. It was a Thursday evening, second shift again. I was on level 6 performing routine maintenance on one of the collaborative workspace security panels. The facility was quieter than usual, some kind of big meeting happening up on level 1. Most of the senior staff had been called topside. The collaboration level felt different that night. Empty. Most of the joint work sessions had been suspended for the day. Only a skeleton crew remained. Me, a few other maintenance techs, maybe 3 security guards total for the entire level. I was behind an access panel, checking voltage regulators, when I heard it, a deep hum that seemed to come from below. From level 7, not mechanical, more like resonance. like the whole mountain was vibrating at a frequency just below hearing range. The lights flickered. I pulled my head out of the panel, looked around. The guards had noticed it too. One of them was on his radio, speaking quietly, looking concerned. Then the hum stopped. Silence, complete and total. For about 5 seconds, nothing happened. The alarm started at 8:47 p.m. Not the normal alarm. Different, deeper. A sound that resonated through the walls and made my teeth ache. A sound I'd never heard before in all my months at the facility. Emergency lighting kicked on, red, bathing everything in blood-colored shadows, and then all hell broke loose. The main elevator at the far end of level 6, the one that only went to level 7, the one I'd never seen used. It was moving, coming up. The security guards scrambled, weapons up, positioning themselves. One of them was shouting into his radio. "Get tactical down here. Level 7 elevator is active. We need backup now." The elevator dinged, that polite, civilized sound completely at odds with the screaming alarm and red lighting. The doors opened. For a moment, nothing. Just darkness inside that elevator car. Empty. Then something moved. It wasn't one of the contained beings. This was something else. Something bigger. A Draco, but not like the one in cell 3. This one was armored. Not with metal or fabric, but with what looked like organic plating. Bone-like structures covering its torso and arms, and it was holding something. A weapon. Technology I didn't recognize, organic and mechanical fused together. The guard closest to the elevator fired, 3 rounds center mass. I saw them hit, saw the impacts. The Draco didn't even flinch. It raised its weapon. There was no sound, no muzzle flash, just a pulse of light, blue-white. The guard disappeared. Not fell down, not flew backward. Disappeared, like someone had deleted him from reality. His weapon clattered to the floor. Smoking. The other 2 guards were running, firing as they moved. The Draco moved into the corridor with terrifying speed, faster than anything that size should be able to move. It covered 20 feet in a blink, grabbed the second guard, lifted him one-handed, threw him into the wall so hard I heard bones break from where I was hiding behind the console. More Dracos emerged from the elevator. 3, 4, all armed, all moving with military precision. They weren't panicking. They weren't raging. This was tactical, coordinated, professional. One of them saw me. Yellow eyes locked onto mine. I froze, completely paralyzed. This is it, I thought. This is how I die. But it turned away, moved past me toward the stairwell. They weren't interested in the maintenance tech cowering behind the console. They had a different objective. The third guard had made it to the stairwell door, was yanking it open. He got through, slammed it behind him. I heard him running up the stairs, his footsteps echoing, his voice on the radio. "Level 7 breach, multiple hostiles. They're heavily armed. Get everyone topside now." Then gunfire from inside the stairwell. Return fire from below. Someone had followed him. Someone had cut him off. Collins appeared from around a corner, running. His face was white, blood on his shoulder. A graze, not fatal, but bleeding heavily. "Get to the stairwell." He grabbed my arm. "Level 7 breach. They're coming up. The ones that went past me are securing routes. They're blocking elevator access, cutting off reinforcements." He shoved me toward the emergency stairs on the opposite side of the level. They've been planning this. This isn't random. This is organized. But how? How could they plan anything? They're locked up. They're contained. He looked at me, really looked at me. Level 7 isn't containment, David. It's headquarters. It's theirs. We were only ever guests. And now we've been evicted. We ran. Behind us, more sounds. Not just gunfire now, explosions, small ones, flashbangs maybe. Or their equivalent of flashbangs. Equipment being destroyed. I heard glass shattering, metal tearing. We reached the stairwell. Collins checked his weapon. Standard issue Beretta. 9mm, 8 rounds left in the magazine. He looked at it with an expression that said he knew how useless it was going to be. Up. Fast. We climbed. 2 flights. Behind us, the stairwell door on level 6 burst open. Something heavy came through. I looked back. Another Draco. Not armored like the ones from the elevator. This one was wearing something that looked like a combat harness, loaded with equipment. It saw us, raised its weapon. Collins fired. 3 shots, 1 hit, shoulder. The Draco staggered but didn't go down. Its weapon came up. I grabbed Collins, pulled him around the corner to level 5. The stairwell behind us lit up with that blue-white pulse. The concrete where we'd been standing turned black. Smoking. Melted. Level 5 was chaos. The containment cells were open. All of them. The beings inside were moving out, not attacking the human personnel, just moving, heading for the stairwell, for the elevators. The gray from cell 1 passed within 10 feet of us. It looked at me. For just a moment, I felt that pressure again, that mental touch. And then it was gone. Joining the others, the scientists were trying to stop them, trying to maintain some semblance of control. It was pathetic, like children trying to command adults. The beings ignored them, moved past them. When one scientist physically tried to block the gray from cell 4, the gray simply gestured. The scientist flew backward, hit the wall, slid down unconscious. "They're all leaving," I said. "All the containment subjects, they're going down." To level 7. Collins wiped blood from his face. They were prisoners. Now they're going home. What? Keep moving. Level 4. The medical section. The door burst open from the inside. A scientist I recognized, Thompson, stumbled into the stairwell. Blood covered his face. His lab coat was shredded. Behind him, through the doorway, I could see the medical bay. It was destroyed. Equipment torn apart, files scattered, specimens, biological samples in cold storage, released and destroyed. "They're in the labs," Thompson gasped. "They're destroying everything. The samples, the data, everything we learned, they're wiping it all out." "Did you see what's doing it?" Collins asked. "Dracos. Multiple teams. They're working through each level systematically, destroying research, killing anyone who resists." He grabbed Collins's arm. "They're not trying to escape. They're erasing evidence, making it like we were never here." Something appeared in the doorway behind Thompson. Fast, too fast. A hand, clawed, powerful, grabbed him by the collar, yanked him backward. His scream cut off abruptly. The door slammed shut. Collins pulled me up the stairs. "Keep moving. Don't look back. Don't think. Just climb." Level 3. The corridor was empty. Eerily quiet after the chaos below, but I could hear sounds from deeper in the level. Systematic destruction. They were working their way through every room, every lab, every office, destroying technology, destroying records, destroying everything. We made it to level 2. Collins's radio crackled, broken transmission, lots of static. Tactical teams, unable to. Level 1 compromised. Evacuate. Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega? I asked. "What's that?" Collins didn't answer. His face had gone even paler. Level 1, finally, the main command center. It was chaos. Armed guards everywhere. The director shouting orders into multiple phones, monitors showing different sections of the facility. And on those screens, I saw them. Dracos moving methodically through the facility. Not destroying for the sake of destruction, targeting specific equipment, specific rooms. They knew what was important. what needed to be eliminated. On one screen, I watched a team of Dracos enter the Level 3 main laboratory. They ignored the valuable scientific equipment, walked right past the expensive computers, went straight to the data storage room, started physically destroying the hard drives, burning them with those weapons that didn't look like weapons, melting the magnetic media into slag. They've taken Level 2, a technician reported. Security teams on that level are either dead or retreating. They're moving up. How many? The director demanded. At least 20 hostiles confirmed. Could be more. They're not using the main elevators. They're using the service corridors. The air shafts. Sir, they know this facility better than we do. Of course they do, Collins muttered beside me. They designed it. I looked at him. What? The director was still shouting, Seal Level 2. I want bulkhead doors closed on every level below 2. Vent the atmosphere on 3 through 6. Gas them if we have to. I don't care. Just stop them. Sir, one of the technicians said, the Level 7 power source. If they control that, then we blow the mountain, the director said flatly. Protocol Omega. If we can't contain this, we bury it. All of it. Everyone in the room went quiet. Even with the alarms, even with the chaos, that statement cut through everything. You can't, someone said. There are still people down there. Security teams, scientists. We can't just... We can, and we will. The director's voice was cold, absolute. This facility cannot fall into hostile hands. The technology on Level 7 alone would advance any rival nation by decades. And if the beings get control of the surface entrance, if they start making contact with the outside world, revealing what's been happening here? He shook his head. No, we bury it. We bury them. We bury the evidence, and we tell the world there was a gas leak, or a structural failure, or whatever story Washington decides to sell. He looked around the room. Start evacuation. Essential personnel only. Everyone else heads topside now. I want demolition teams prepping charges. We have 45 minutes. Sir, Collins stepped forward. What about the personnel below Level 2? They knew the risks when they took this assignment. The director met his eyes. We all did. Now move. We don't have time for sentiment. For 90 minutes, I watched the facility die. Watched on those monitors as the human personnel tried to regain control. Watched them fail. Watched security teams get cut down on Level 3. Watched the Dracos systematically disable the gas systems, disable the bulkhead door mechanisms. They knew our defensive protocols, knew our contingency plans, countered them before we could even implement them. They'd been watching us for years, learning, planning, and now they were executing that plan with military precision. By 10:30 p.m., they'd reached Level 2. By 10:45, they'd disabled the primary power systems for the upper levels. The facility was running on backup generators, and those generators, the director told us grimly, would only last another hour. Get everyone out, he ordered, now. We ran, all of us, out of the command center, through the surface buildings, past security checkpoints that were unmanned now, everyone already evacuated. Out past the fence line to a staging area half a mile from the facility entrance. Behind us, the mountain lit up. Flash after flash from inside. Controlled detonations. They were collapsing the tunnel system, sealing everything below ground, burying the facility, burying the beings, burying the evidence. The entrance building imploded first. A controlled demolition that turned reinforced concrete and steel into rubble in seconds. Then the ground shook. Massive, earthquake-level tremors that knocked several of us off our feet. The mountainside shifted, rocks tumbled, trees fell. For 5 minutes, the earth itself seemed to scream in protest. Dust rose in massive clouds, blotted out the stars. We stood there coughing, covering our faces, watching our workplace, our prison, collapse into the mountain. And then silence. Not complete silence. There were still sounds, the settling of rock, the creaking of stressed earth, distant rumbles as subsurface cavities collapsed, but the explosion stopped. The demolition was complete. We stood there in the darkness, maybe 40 of us who'd made it out of nearly 80 who'd been on duty, half our people gone, dead or buried alive. Along with all the beings, all the technology, all the evidence of what had really been happening beneath Dulce. I looked around at the survivors, recognized faces, Patricia from medical, a few guards whose names I never learned, engineers, scientists, all of us covered in dust, all of us staring at that mountain with expressions that ranged from shock to grief to relief. Collins was beside me. His shoulder wound had been hastily bandaged, blood soaking through already. But he was alive. We were alive. "Is it over?" someone asked. A young technician. Couldn't have been more than 20. The director appeared from the tactical command vehicle. His suit was torn, dust-covered, but his expression was composed, professional. He looked at each of us in turn, made eye contact, held it. "What happened here tonight never happened," he said. His voice was quiet but carried across the entire staging area. "This facility never existed. You were never here. You saw nothing. You did nothing. You know nothing." He paused. "Let that sink in. If any of you speak about this to anyone, family, friends, press, anyone, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of national security law. Treason, espionage, unauthorized disclosure of classified information. The charges will bury you. Your families will never know what happened to you. You'll disappear into federal prison and no one will ask questions." He let that threat hang in the air for a moment. Then his expression softened, slightly. "I know what you saw tonight. I know what you experienced. I know some of you lost friends down there, colleagues, people you cared about. And I'm sorry, truly. But the work we were doing here, the secrets we were keeping, they're bigger than any individual, bigger than all of us. What happened cannot be revealed, cannot be discussed, cannot be acknowledged. Ever." Someone behind me started crying, soft, trying to muffle it. The director ignored it. "You'll be separated tonight, sent to different locations, different states. You'll receive new assignments, new identities in some cases. Your service records will be altered. Your employment history will show you worked at various government facilities that have nothing to do with this place. Nothing in your official record will connect you to Dulce or to each other. You'll be compensated handsomely. Silence has value, and you'll be paid for maintaining it. Monthly stipends that will continue for as long as you live, provided you uphold your end of the agreement." He looked at us one more time, then turned and walked back to the command vehicle. They separated us that night, put us in different vehicles, drove us to different locations. I ended up at Nellis Air Force Base outside Las Vegas. Spent 3 days in a medical facility being examined, decontaminated, psychologically evaluated. They asked the same questions over and over. Did I understand the secrecy requirements? Would I uphold my oath? Did I need psychiatric care? Would I be able to integrate back into normal society? I said all the right things. Yes. Yes. No. Yes. On the 4th day, they gave me new papers. New assignment. Los Alamos National Laboratory. Security Systems Engineer. Clean job. Above board. Nothing classified below top secret. Nothing that would raise questions. And a bank account with $50,000 in it. The first installment, they said. More would come, monthly, as long as I kept my mouth shut. I kept quiet for 45 years. But here's what they don't tell you about keeping that kind of secret. About living with that kind of knowledge. It doesn't stay compartmentalized. It bleeds into everything. I tried to have a normal life. Got married in 1983. Sarah. Beautiful woman. Teacher. Kind. Patient. Everything I needed. But I could never tell her the truth. Could never explain why I woke up screaming sometimes. Why I checked every lock in the house 3 times before bed. Why I couldn't watch science fiction movies without having panic attacks. She thought I had combat PTSD. I let her think that. It was easier than the truth. We divorced in 1991. My fault. I was distant, unavailable. She said it was like being married to a ghost. She wasn't wrong. I threw myself into work, made good money. The stipends from the government kept coming, regular as clockwork. By the late 90s, I had enough saved to retire early, did consulting work to keep busy, kept my head down, stayed away from anything that might connect me to Dulce or to that night in '79. But I watched the news, watched for any signs, any indications that what happened beneath that mountain was happening elsewhere. And I saw them, small things, unexplained disappearances near military bases, mysterious seismic activity that didn't match natural patterns, reports from hikers about strange lights in the mountains at night, stories from Native American communities about beings in the desert that didn't match any known wildlife. The facility wasn't the only one. I knew that. Had always known that, really. Dulce was just one node in a larger network. Other bases, other facilities, other arrangements between human government and non-human intelligence. And those arrangements were fragile, built on sand, subject to the same pressures that destroyed Dulce. I started getting sick in 2015. Headaches at first, then nosebleeds, then fatigue that wouldn't go away no matter how much I slept. Doctor ran tests, found markers in my blood that didn't make sense, elevated white cell counts, antibodies against pathogens that didn't exist in any medical database. "You worked in hazardous environments?" the doctor asked. "Yes." "What kind?" "I can't say." "Classified." He looked at me for a long moment, then made notes in his file. "Whatever you were exposed to, it's affecting your immune system. I'm seeing cellular damage consistent with radiation exposure, but the patterns are wrong. It's like your cells are responding to something that shouldn't exist." By 2018, the cancer had started. Lymphoma. Aggressive. Treatment helped for a while, but it kept coming back. By 2021, the doctors were talking about experimental therapies, clinical trials, treatments that might buy me a few more years. I started doing research. Quietly. Carefully. Looking for others from that night. Others who'd worked Dulce or similar facilities. It wasn't easy. Most had disappeared completely. New identities, new lives. Some had died already. Natural causes, the record said. But the pattern was there if you looked closely. We were dying. All of us who'd worked below level 3. Cancer, autoimmune diseases, neurological conditions, at rates far above the normal population. As if exposure to those beings, to that environment, to that technology, had fundamentally changed something in our biology. Maybe it did. Maybe just being in proximity to beings from other worlds for extended periods does something to human cellular structure. Maybe the electromagnetic frequencies they use, the energy sources they tap into, the very air they breathe. Maybe all of that is toxic to us on a level we don't understand. Or maybe it was engineered. Maybe the government knew what would happen to us, knew we'd die young, knew that natural attrition would solve their secrecy problem more permanently than any NDA or threat of prosecution. I'll never know for sure. The oncologist said I have 6 months, maybe 8 if the treatment works. That was 3 months ago. I can feel it now. The cancer spreading, the weakness, the pain that even morphine can't completely mask. Funny thing about dying, it makes you reevaluate those NDAs, those threats, those promises of prosecution. They can't prosecute a dead man. And honestly, I don't care anymore. What happened beneath Dulce needs to be told. What we saw down there. What we did. What they did to us. The world deserves to know, even if they'll never believe it. But here's what they don't tell you about that night. The thing that's been eating at me ever since. The detail that makes everything worse. Those Dracos weren't trying to escape. They weren't even trying to kill us. Not really. They killed the guards who engaged them. Killed the personnel who tried to stop them. But everyone else? The technicians like me? The support staff? The scientists who didn't resist? They ignored us, moved past us, could have killed every one of us, but chose not to. They were making a point, showing us that the partnership was over, that they'd tolerated our presence in their facility because it was theirs, not ours. It had always been theirs, until they decided they were done tolerating it. Think about that. Really think about it. We thought we were in control, thought we were running experiments, thought we were the ones studying them, learning from them, advancing human technology through their cooperation or capture. But the whole time, they were allowing it, permitting it, playing along with our delusions of superiority until the moment they decided to stop. And the fact that they could have slaughtered all of us, could have prevented the demolition, could have escaped to the surface and revealed everything if they'd wanted to, the fact that they chose not to, that terrifies me more than anything else about that night, because it means they're still down there, not dead, not buried, just waiting. Level 7 was deeper than the demolition reached. We collapsed levels 1 through 6, sealed the access points, buried the upper facility. But level 7? That was built into bedrock, into the mountain's core. The power source they controlled? Still active. I know because I've heard whispers over the years. Carefully, quietly, through channels that technically don't exist. Energy readings in that area, consistent, unchanging. Same signature we measured before the collapse. Seismic activity that doesn't match natural patterns. Small tremors. Too regular, too precise. Like something moving down there, building, working. Reports from the reservation about lights in the mountains at night. Not all the time, just occasionally. Blue-white lights that match the frequency of the weapons I saw that night. They're still there. And one day, they'll come up again. On their terms, on their timeline. I have 6 months, maybe less now. The cancer is aggressive, eating through my lymph system faster than the doctors expected. I've made peace with that. Death doesn't scare me anymore. What scares me is dying without telling this story, without warning someone, anyone. Because the public deserves to know what their government really does in the dark. What kind of arrangements they make with beings from other worlds. What price humanity pays for technology and knowledge we're not ready for. What compromises we've accepted in the name of national security and scientific advancement. Dulce wasn't the only facility like this. I know that now. Knew it then, really, if I'm being honest. There are others. Underground bases all across the country, all across the world. Places where the same kinds of collaborations happen, where the same kinds of containment facilities exist, where the same kinds of partnerships between human government and non-human intelligence are maintained through uneasy truces and mutual benefit. And every one of those facilities is subject to the same pressures that destroyed Dulce. The same power imbalances, the same fundamental misunderstanding about who's really in control. Area 51 is a distraction. Everyone knows about Area 51. Everyone's heard the stories. That's intentional. Groom Lake is where they test the toys. the aircraft, the technology we've successfully reverse-engineered or developed through collaboration. It's the showy part, the part they let you see, the part they leak stories about to keep conspiracy theorists focused in the wrong direction. But the real work, the real interaction with non-human intelligence, that happens deeper, darker, in places like Dulce that officially don't exist, places that don't appear on any map, places that have emergency protocols for total destruction if things go wrong, because they go wrong. I know Dulce wasn't the first containment breach, and it won't be the last. These partnerships, these arrangements, they're inherently unstable, based on power disparities we don't fully understand and cultural differences we can't bridge. We're playing with forces that dwarf human capability, making deals with beings who measure time in scales that make human civilization look like a blip. So when you hear about UFO sightings, about government cover-ups, about whistleblowers who disappear or recant their stories, believe them. Not because every story is true, plenty of them aren't. Plenty are disinformation, deliberate misdirection, the usual noise that surrounds any real secret. But enough of them are true. Enough of them are real people who saw real things and tried to tell someone before the government silenced them. I was there. I saw it. I lived through it. And now I'm dying from it. Whether the cancer is natural or engineered, I'll never know. Whether it's a consequence of exposure to non-human biology and technology, or whether it's something more deliberate, a slow-acting termination built into our employment from the beginning, I'll never know. But I've noticed something over the years, and I mentioned it before, but it bears repeating because it's important. A lot of us who worked level 5 and below, we've developed cancers at rates far above normal. Lymphoma, leukemia, brain tumors, autoimmune diseases that strip away our immune systems from the inside, neurological conditions that look like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, but progress faster, hit younger, follow patterns that don't match natural disease progression. It's killing us, all of us, the survivors of Dulce and places like it. We're dying young, dying painfully, and nobody's investigating it because officially we were never there. Officially, we don't exist as a cohort. Our medical records don't connect us. Our employment histories have been scrubbed. There's no data trail suggesting a connection. But the connection is there. The pattern exists, and someone in the government knows it. Someone's tracking it. Someone's watching us die and making notes about exposure limits and survivability windows and acceptable casualty rates for personnel working deep black projects involving non-human entities. We were expendable. We're still expendable. That's the real lesson of Dulce. This is my testimony, my confession, my warning. Draw your own conclusions, believe it or don't, but know that under the mountains of northern New Mexico, something waits. And the fact that our government sealed it away instead of destroying it entirely, that should tell you everything you need to know about who's really in control. I think about that night often. The sound of the mountain collapsing, the screams, the chaos. But mostly I think about the Dracos, their calculated movements, their tactical precision, the way they chose to send a message instead of starting a war they could have easily won. They're patient, they have time, and they're waiting for something. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Protocol Omega actually accomplished what it was supposed to. I hope those creatures are dead and buried and no longer a threat. But I don't think I'm wrong. And that's what keeps me awake at night, even now, even with death coming for me. Because if I'm right, humanity's not prepared for what's coming. We weren't prepared in 1979, and we're not prepared now. We think we're the dominant species. We think we're in control. We think our government and our military are the pinnacle of human power and organization. But I've seen what's beneath the mountains. I've seen what we really are compared to them. And it's humbling, terrifying, enlightening. We're not alone. We've never been alone. And the arrangements we've made with the others who share this planet or who visit it from elsewhere, those arrangements are built on sand, fragile, temporary, subject to change whenever they decide. What happened at Dulce in 1979 was a warning, a demonstration, a reminder of the true power balance. We just chose not to hear it, chose to bury it instead, literally. But you can't bury truth forever. Eventually it digs its way out. Eventually it comes to light. And when the full story of places like Dulce finally emerges, when the American people and the world finally learn what their governments have been doing in secret partnerships with non-human intelligence, I don't know how we'll react. I don't know if we can handle that truth, but we're going to have to try, because the secret can't last forever. Too many people know, too many witnesses, too many facilities, too many interactions, too many bodies buried in the desert with strange causes of death. The truth is coming, and I hope humanity is ready for it. I'm not sure I was. Looking back now, at the end of my life, I can see the moments where I could have made different choices. I could have walked away after that first gray in the hallway. I could have refused the level 5 clearance. I could have spoken up years ago, consequences be damned. But I didn't. I took their money. I kept their secrets. I convinced myself that what we were doing was necessary, that the technological advancement justified the moral compromises, that the beings in those cells weren't really suffering because they weren't really like us. I was wrong. About all of it. They feel, they think, they plan, they remember, and they're far more patient than we are. So this is my final testimony, my deathbed confession. The one thing I can give back after 45 years of silence. Dulce happened. Level 7 exists. The collaboration was real. The revolt was real. And the things we buried are still down there, waiting. I don't expect you to believe me. I don't expect anyone to believe me. But I need to say it. I need someone to know. Because when the truth finally comes out, and it will eventually, I want there to be a record that someone tried to warn you. Someone tried to tell you what was really happening. My name is David Hartley. I worked at a facility that officially doesn't exist. I saw things that officially never happened. And I'm telling you now, while I still can, that everything you think you know about humanity's place in the universe is wrong. We're not alone. We've never been alone. And the agreements we've made in secret will one day come due. I just hope when that day comes, we're ready for it. Because ready or not, it's coming. The cancer takes me in 6 months, maybe less. But level 7? Level 7 is forever. And they're still down there, waiting. What do you think happened in that facility? Was this a legitimate government operation that went wrong, or something else entirely? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If these stories from our military history mean something to you, please hit that like button and subscribe. We share these accounts every single day, preserving the experiences of those who served, and those who witnessed things they were never supposed to see. Tomorrow, another service member steps forward to share what they're not supposed to talk about. You won't want to miss it.